No, I think that the vast majority of home builders really are moving in the right direction. But I think that if we can really drive home this point of communication and fostering relationships with realtors, it's so important. And I do think that it will result in just more sales, more positive reviews, more positive experiences, just because you have that human touch.
You're listening to Build Up, the Homebuilder podcast, brought to you by ZGM.
I'm Jordan.
And I'm Santana.
I'm a home building marketer, brand strategist, and your host of the Build Up podcast.
And I'm a digital marketer and the executive producer of Build Up.
And together, we love applying our expertise to the home building industry. Join us as we uncover industry insights, chat with colleagues, and explore exciting ways to push the home building world forward.
Jordan, today on the podcast, we've been talking about doing this for the past 2 seasons now, and we have finally gotten a wonderful local realtor to come onto the show. So welcome, Robbie Kamaleddine.
Robbie, hi, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
I wanted to ask you, what does your process look like when you have a customer who's interested in a new build home? How do you sort of approach that with the customer?
That's a good question. So obviously, I try and ascertain what it is that they're looking for, first and foremost, and then I try and reverse engineer that to what builder would be appropriate. So typically, people would like something with a builder already. And so once we've established, okay, this is the builder that they like, and these are the models that they like, obviously the salespeople at the that work for the builder are much more informed as to the pricing of everything, the upgrades, the availability, the models, everything like that. So I want to form a connection with one of the salespeople to, kind of facilitate the rest of the transaction. Why not leverage all of their knowledge and all of their resources to make the sale smoother?
Is that how it works most of the time? You actually have a customer coming to you that says, hey, I'm interested in X builder or Y builder.
Yeah. So when I first started getting into it, I tried to familiarize myself with as many builders as possible. It's easier with the bigger builders. I've done, it was a newer builder that I'd never heard of. This was my second year of real estate. And they were in, because the client wanted Forest Heights. And I was like, oh, I love Forest Heights. That's one of my areas. But they meant Forest Heights in Beaumont, which is a city I learned existed. So I drove to Beaumont and I just met with one of the salespeople and I said, I've never heard of this builder before. What do you do? And then I actually got a list of all of the people they previously sold to because they were very new. And I got qualitative feedback as to how did it settle through the winter? Have you had any issues, any deficiencies, any of that stuff? So you try and, come with knowledge. I think that to be a successful realtor, you need to be more active and not necessarily passive.
I just want to add on there and ask a question because the new home process is very self-contained. As a customer, you can very much just walk into a sales center. Do folks typically go to you as a realtor because they want more of that concierge guidance process experience? Why would they go to you instead of through the sales center?
Yeah, I think that the world of both real estate and new home sales is evolving, and not everyone is created equally, and not everyone has the same personality and the same values and the same kind of sales style. So when people kind of resonate with me, they want me to be involved in that process and kind of act as a guide. Sometimes it's tricky because builders and their team are a little bit more guarded with the information. So even ascertaining something like, what is the cost of this, is not necessarily a direct question. And so they prefer to have someone who is impartial, like a realtor, to get involved, just to say, okay, is this a good idea? How does this home compare to other homes? Because obviously, if you go to a builder, they're only gonna be able to sell you their product. Whereas a realtor will theoretically look at everything. If you go to Samsung to buy a dishwasher, they're gonna sell you a Samsung dishwasher. Whereas if you go to Trail Appliances, they may show you a variety of dishwashers.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Who is the typical, and maybe there isn't a typical, but what do your customers sort of look like? Like, is there, I think in a lot of what we've been looking at lately, it's sort of more this younger demographic that feels like they're coming in and they're like, I need assistance. I can't do this on my own. And they're bringing in a realtor. Is that sort of what you're seeing?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of new home buyers. Like Cantiro specifically does a lot of new home buyers, but it's not necessarily like one archetype. It's a few of them, because there's also the people that are looking to downsize and who maybe haven't purchased a home in the last 20 years, but they're empty nesters or whatever. And then you have the other demographic that are just investors. We've seen a huge influx of out of province migration, whether it's from Toronto or Vancouver or really out of country. So they're coming to capitalize on this, and they're looking for these new homes to invest and just like own property in Alberta.
And in that investor situation, is it basically, someone's calling you to be their, eyes and ears on the ground to make something happen?
Yeah. It just, what does this area look like? Last year was really weird because we were selling so many properties, whether I was on the buying side or the selling side. And sometimes the sellers never, or the buyers never set foot in the house. They're relying on the agent to do a video walkthrough and say, yes, this is Keswick.
Yeah. So in terms of like an actual demographic of someone buying, not the investor side of things, that pretty much spans a pretty wide age range, pretty wide like buyer type.
Yeah, I mean, I think that typically it's a little bit younger, but I hate to stereotype.
Yeah, I hear that. When it comes to an individual who's buying a home and they're working with you and the realtor, what is sort of the roles of each three of the parties? So like, what's the role of the buyer? What's your role? And what's the home builder's role, the salesperson?
Yeah, I mean, the way I structure my business is, for me, it's about providing education. So when I take on a new buyer, specifically a first-time home buyer, we'll go for coffee. We'll have a conversation about, okay, what are you looking for? What is your price range? What areas do you like? What styles do you like? And then what I will do is, in my business model, is that we'll go out and we'll look at 8 houses. Different price points, different builders, different styles, different layouts, different everything, and you're not allowed to buy anything that day. And that kind of eliminates the pressure. And then the goal of that day is just education. So you get knowledge. And then the second time we go out, they say, I want a 2-story home in this community with this builder or whatever, or I don't want a 4-level split, or I don't want a half duplex, or I don't want to go over this price point, or it needs to be a legal suite, all of that stuff. So for me, it's educating. And then if they do want to go with a new home builder, my knowledge is like superseded by their knowledge of that product. So I it's like a duet, and I'm Adina Menzel, and then they're Kristen Chenoweth. And
That's perfect.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Totally, I get it.
So after that handoff process, do you hand off the entire sale to the home builder, or does that stay with you and your client?
I'm really fastidious about all the details. So when I work with a builder, typically, if they're working with my client, I'm with them through every phase. So we're there for negotiations, we're there for every walkthrough, we're there for the design stages, and I'll help them, pick things. If they're changing the layout gently, we'll discuss that. I like to be there for every inspection, every walkthrough, just so they feel like they're supported the entire time.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting and really important. So basically, it's like you and your client are buying this house together. Like, there's no point where it's like, okay, here, I'll just leave you now.
I mean, I make the joke that I'm moving in with them. So it's very much like, well, this is my room. Where will you sleep? This is hot Gossington's, but I've worked with a number of builders now, and every once in a while, because you become friends with the salespeople and you have a lovely conversation, but every now and again, someone will, like a salesperson will sell a property. And then like a month later, this realtor materializes and says, well, that was my client, I want commission. And it's like, girl, you don't even go here. You weren't registered. You weren't there. Like, they came in, They saw the house 3 times. They did the paperwork, they did the walkthrough, like they've removed conditions. No, you were not involved in this. And that happens a lot, which is frustrating.
Yeah, totally. And so what are some of the things that, from a realtor's point of view, what are some of the things a realtor should be doing when dealing with new home sales? Like, they should be registering first appointment.
I think they should be registering first appointment. I think they should be introducing themselves. I think there is this idea of it's us versus them. Whereas if you approach it more collaboratively, it benefits everyone. Why on earth would you fight that? And why on earth would you create these barriers? So if you meet the new salesperson, or the not the new salesperson, but the salesperson that's working there, and say, "Hi, my name is so and so. These are my clients. Here are their names. We're looking at this. Here's what we've seen so far. Here's what we think we're interested in." Like that starts the relationship up for success. Whereas if you just send them, which happens a lot, if you just send them to the show home, the salesperson will, justifiably assume that they're not represented. And why should the realtor get commission for not doing their job?
Right.
Anyway, this is a hot button issue for me.
No, that's fair. And, I've seen it often in sales centers where they have signs that are like, if you are working with realtor, please register your realtor.
100%. But unfortunately, a lot of realtors are illiterate. So here we are.
The other question that comes out of this naturally for me is, what does that mean for the brand experience of the home builder, right? Because it's not, you working with them isn't a reflection of them, but it could make things better for their customer, right? Because that sales experience matters for you as your brand, but also the brand of the home builder.
Yeah, I think, it's convoluted, right? Every realtor, represents themselves in a slightly different way. And there's going to be more synergy between some agents and some builders, but I think it's much easier to approach this with kindness and sincerity and an open mind where it is intended to be collaborative. My branding is not necessarily the most serious, but I've gotten along really well with almost every salesperson I've ever interacted with, every builder I've interacted with, and it's been very positive.
So we talked about realtors having to register when they take their clients to a home builder. Are there other things that are very important that a realtor needs to be doing when dealing with new home builder?
I think actively participate is the biggest one. It's not like, again, this is my opinion, but if they're under a buyer brokerage agreement with you, but you send them to a home builder and you register with the home builder and then just leave, you're not necessarily earning your commission. You're not necessarily providing a service that's in any way useful to the client. And I think it's a reflection of your brand and your business, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. What are some of the things that builders maybe need to know that you would want builders to know that would help make your life easier when dealing with a home builder?
There's a few things. I think it comes down to communication. Builders, like I said, sometimes kind of hoard their knowledge a little bit. And I respect that there's a reason for that, but they've gotten a lot better at this now. But for a while, builders wouldn't actually communicate that they offered realtor commissions, which removes the incentive for the realtor to show that. So they've circumvented that now, and most of them will advertise, "Oh yes, we're offering standard Alberta commissions," which is easier. Sometimes they don't necessarily offer floor plans, or the floor plan is a floor plan of a model they used to sell 5 years ago that they no longer sell, which is not helpful. And then the biggest one that used to drive me crazy, well, it still kind of drives me crazy, but a lot of builders are better at it now, is all of the photos on MLS are just the show home, which has $75,000 of upgrades in it. And then in the tiniest writing, it's like, by the way, this house is not actually this house. So it doesn't have the fireplace, the vaulted ceilings, the glass feature wall, all of the bells and whistles. And then it creates a little bit of a disconnect for the client who's like, "Oh, I love the photos." And then you see it in real life of what you're actually getting at that price point, and it's significantly different.
Yeah, so it's really a matter of, the builder taking the time to, do the proper accurate listing and give the information and really be an open and sharing partner.
For sure. But this is where, when you have a good relationship, if you talk to the builder and say, "Hey, we love this home, but it's 3 bedrooms and they're a little bit small. Is there any other option?" And then maybe if it's a really successful or put together sales associate, they'll say, "Oh, actually, there's actually a 2-bedroom that's a dual master or dual primary suite that would work better for your client. It's not listed online, but we could easily show it to you." So there's more of a conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. What sort of information and what details would you say realtors are looking for from the builder? Because I think we work with lots of builder clients, and realtors are becoming more and more important in new home sales. And we continually try new and different ways to engage with realtors to varying degrees of success. So in your opinion, what is the realtor looking for in a relationship with a builder? Like what sort of ongoing information or detail or anything at all?
Right. So I think price is obviously really important, because sometimes they'll say, yes, price, inquire within. And you're like, okay, I need to know. Like, is this 500? Is this 700? Where are we at? So price is really important. Availability and timelines are really important too. If you have like a client that needs to buy a house in 30 days, and everything listed online is actually not going to be done for 6 months, that's a problem. Most, competent salespeople will have a really realistic idea of like how long they'll take. Because again, previously, sometimes builders were really overpromising and under-delivering with their timelines, and blah, 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 COVID, blah, 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 supply chain issues, that all becomes very tricky. And if you have a longer possession, can we make changes? Can we change our finishes? Can we zhuzh this up cosmetically? And what does that look like in further price?
Do you have preferred builders that you work with?
Yes.
And how do you determine your preferred builder list? Like, what's the process there?
I mean, it's really two factors. One is quality and prettiness, because again, for your brand, you want to represent the pretty people, the pretty houses, the gorgeous finishes, all of that good stuff. And then two is communication, right? Like there are some builders where it's such a pain to even ascertain if the property is available or if it exists. And that's a huge problem. Sometimes in the newer areas, the addresses don't even populate on Google Maps. So just finding where it is the problem. So if you have a salesperson you can just text, who is not working weird bank hours of 1 to 3 p.m. Wednesdays. Like that's it. That's when they're like, okay. So just being able to find like the location is important. So once you have, these relationships with these builders where you can just text them, and sometimes 9 o'clock at night, because real estate doesn't sleep, right? And so sometimes where they're like, oh yes, we're open on Saturday at 3 p.m. until 6 p.m. That's not helpful, right? Like we've already have other things to do there. So if we're able to call them or text them or email them or get the answer really quickly, it makes a huge difference. And if you know that the quality of the product is good, that also makes a huge difference.
That's so interesting. So transparency, communication, availability, like these are sort of all the core key aspects of working well together with a builder.
In a way, Jordan, it almost sounds like, Robbie, you're like a customer, but like a really, really, really well-informed one. Do you know what I mean? Like it's your kind of job to be that extension of like, you have to ask all of those questions and all the things, and you have to be able to convey that back to your people.
Yeah, like I don't take for granted that the salespeople know more than I do. But I want to come with the knowledge externally, like outside of this bubble of this builder. We're informed because we know this other builder is doing this product in this area at this price point, and these houses are being resold in this area at this price point. So you really have to come, again, I'm so passionate about this. Realtors need to actually earn their commission. It's not just a license to print money. It's like, yes, please pay me. I passed my exam by circling the picture of the house in crayon. And now I'm a real estate agent, which is how you get your license, by the way.
Is it?
They made it harder now. They don't provide the crayons.
You have to bring your own. That's part of the test.
Crayons. You're like, I remember the task.
So I'm glad this is mostly home builders listening to this podcast.
I'm a realtor.
We have a very small realtor demographic.
Myself in this category of being mostly illiterate.
We're going to put a disclaimer on this episode, and all opinions are Robbie's, not reflective of ours.
Well, excuse you. You were the one that asked me, Santana, if I had opinions.
Well, listen, it'd be a boring episode if you didn't.
100%. I'm aiming for miscongeniality of this episode, so we'll see how that goes.
Season 2 Miscongeniality Award.
Yeah.
And like not even helping our cause. We had a guy on who runs a tech company, and their whole thing is that people list their own homes on this platform. Yeah. And he was a former realtor, and he was like going off on realtors, and you guys have all the same complaints. And Jordan and I were like, oh, we have to bring a realtor on to defend himself. I'm like, I thought you were going to be the realtor to defend yourself, but not you.
Well, no, I really do think a realtor makes a huge difference, though, like for better or for worse. And, you know, I got my license almost out of spite because I had 2 realtors previously that were not necessarily helpful. And I'm just kind of shocked at the positive impact that a realtor can make in terms of finding a house, negotiating the best terms, getting the best price, getting, you know, all of those things. And when you sell, I mean, this was the conversation last year. It was a seller's market, and all these realtors on Instagram, like, I sold the house first day. Yeah, congratulations, you undersold it. Like, it's not about selling it at that point. In a seller's market, you want to sell it for the best terms, for the fewest conditions, for the most money. But no, I mean, a good realtor makes a huge difference.
That's very important. We talked about sort of what the good builders do and what good builders can do in order to, you know, make the relationship with a realtor and a realtor's client as productive as possible. Is it basically just the opposite? Like, is it the builders who are withholding information, not being transparent, not being available? Like, is it really just that simple?
It really is that simple. You know, like it's not rocket science. At the end of the day, if you communicate and sincerely offer the product and provide an education, you're more likely to be successful. And the opposite is true. You know, I've had it before where I feel like I'm like the crazy ex-girlfriend where I'm just texting this builder or the sales associate or whatever. I'm saying, is this available? Help me. What do I need to do to get you to pay attention to me? Like, we have a client that would like to buy this house.
Yeah, let's make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we've seen this on websites too, and a lot of progress has been made over the last, you know, probably 10 years. But it used to sort of be, we don't want to share floor plans, we don't want to share prices, we don't want to share availability because people will steal that information or they'll do nefarious things with it.
Right.
But like at the end of the day, maybe someone's going to do that. Chances are they're probably not. Who knows? But you know, it's more important to impress the people who want to buy from you and impress the people who want to work with you.
1,000%. I think that a successful builder has security and they're not insecure about that information. You know, like, they're not going to reinvent a house in a way that is, you know, it's not like a Willy Wonka or Dr. Seuss house that they're hiding. You know, like, yes, it has 3 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms, like, groundbreaking. I think that the world has really improved over the last few years, and communication has overall just gotten better.
Yeah, I think that's so important. So that relationship that you have with the builder, is that something that you're looking to maintain over a period of time or grow? Like, are you interested in sort of a long-term 2-way relationship with a builder, or are you sort of just in and out with a client?
The way I operate my business is a little strange because I continue to follow up with all my clients long after they've sold, because it's beneficial, and then I just, you know, emotionally bond to everyone. But Edmonton's a small city, so I think it's extremely beneficial to have a positive relationship with this builder, you know, and you get leads out of it, you get kind of a warm glow of positivity. When you have a good relationship, like, what is the point of treating everyone like your enemy?
How do you maintain that relationship, and sort of what do you want the builder to be doing to help you with your clients and your sales?
I mean, honestly, they're already kind of, like, the builders I work with are already kind of doing it. It's just, you know, it goes back to that communication and support. And, you know, I took out clients yesterday, but we looked at 2 different builders, and the salespeople were just night and day, where one of them was just very pushy. And in that case, I kind of mother bear them, where I'm like, okay, we're good. And I've just said before, you know, I'm so sorry, we need some privacy. I need you to leave the room. Like, we would like to freely talk, and I need you to just not be here. But when it's a different builder and the salesperson is less greasy, we should say, then they have all this knowledge and they're just more pleasant, and you want them to be involved because it's like, haha, now I brought this expert in, and now rather than bringing an enemy, now I have this amazing tool and this person that can speak to the build and speak to the warranty and the like the awards and the accolades they've received, and that creates more confidence.
Do you think there's ever builder salespeople that feel threatened by a realtor in the relationship?
1,000%. And it's interesting because I find that the ones that are really threatened don't tend to last a very long time. on both sides of the equation, whether they're realtors or they're builder salespeople, just because I think that creating that sense of hostility is tangible for most people. Like, not to get too ethereal, I was shopping for a engagement ring with one of my friends, this was years ago, and we walked into this jewelry store, and I went one direction, he went another, and two different salespeople talked to us, and then they realized we were kind of part of the same pod, and they got into a verbal altercation in front of us, which was just so gross. And you're like, well, I don't feel very diamond right now. I want to leave, because it's just so off-putting, you know, and if that's the interaction you have in a show home, you're not going to want to buy the house.
Like, is it fair to say it's those salespeople who are more concerned about their own commission, their own sales goal, as opposed to doing the right thing and helping people?
100, and again, that's both sides of the equation. That's like, the realtors aren't innocent here. But I think that if you're operating in a way where the commission is not the primary focus, you will end up making more money and just build more long-term clients, because it's not, I mean, it's one thing to close a deal, but if you get more leads and more referrals, that client is worth way more than their individual purchase.
Yeah, long-term thinking as opposed to as short-term.
Of course.
The relationships that you're cultivating, are they more so with individual salespeople, or are they with like a broader kind of builder sales group?
No, it's individual salespeople.
And is that a large factor to it, where, you know, that salesperson was good to work with, the builder's good too, but like, you know, it's about that individual relationship?
I think it's, you know, two great things taste great together. Like the builder, obviously, like if it was a crap builder, but you love the salesperson, like that's not going to work either. But yeah, certainly like having a relationship with the individual where, you know, like this is what they do. Like they eat, breathe, and sleep like this one product, that makes it so much easier to, again, like I always say to my clients, you know, my superpower is collecting people with superpowers. So if you like Builder X, I have a contact at Builder X who knows every detail about this. So let's get them involved, because it makes them look good. It makes me look good. Like everyone's winning.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. And so often builders try to do things to engage realtors, you know, newsletters and events and all kinds of things. Are those things actually worth the builder's time, or should they focus on getting their salespeople to create relationships with realtors?
I think the salespeople creating the relationships, I mean, like having like a cheese event, it's great. The problem is that like most successful realtors don't have time. Like I book several weeks out for my showings. I book several weeks out for my appointments. And so to like drop, I was like, well, what are you doing on 2 p.m. on a Saturday? It's like, well, I'm working, which isn't to say that they're not great. And I have attended those events before, and it's great. Like, to be honest, like the galas are more fun, because then you dress up and it's more of an event and you feel more of a sense of community. But I think that something as simple as like sending a message on Instagram to introduce someone and say, hey, my name is so-and-so, I'm selling these houses in this area. I'd love for you to come by at this point. Or like, you know, here are our models available for quick possession. If you have any clients, like we pay realtor commissions, yada, yada, yada. Here's my number. Like, I think that's more personal than, you know, again, the cheese. I like cheese. I don't know, I'm anti-cheese right now.
That's a great point, though. So, you know, builders throw these show home opening events, the wine and cheese events, but, you know, chances are they're not getting the cream of the crop realtors just because of scheduling and availability. If a builder was to do an event, like what would sort of pique your interest? Like what would it take to be like, yes, this is something Robbie needs to attend?
Oh, goodness. Again, I think if it's a networking opportunity, there's more value there. If you can get a hook where it's at a brand new show home in a coveted location, there's value there. It really comes down to like, what are you actually offering this person beyond a free glass of wine?
Yeah, I think that's really important. I think, you know, a lot of builders sort of think, you know, we've got product and that's all realtors want. So let's just show them the product and that'll be a win-win.
Right. And the problem is that, you know, in this age of technology, we're being inundated with so much information all the time. There's almost too many options. So like, how do you form a human connection with someone and get them interested when they could just go on their phone and Google houses in whatever location.
Yeah. So providing information beyond what's just already publicly out there.
Yeah.
Because chances are, like as a realtor, you're going to have a client, you're going to understand all of your client's needs. So it's not a matter of, hi, I'm Builder X and look at the 15 homes I have available right now. And it's more about like, help me find the home, not giving me just a list of all of your homes.
Yeah. But this is where if you're working with a realtor, the goal is that you've already kind of done your homework. And by the time you're getting to that builder, they are looking at like one or two products and that's it.
How long does the process typically take, would you say? Like from someone contacting you and then buying a house?
2 weeks. I'm quick. It doesn't. Yeah. It doesn't necessarily have to be that long or that short. For me, I will typically close a client or at least put an offer in maximum within a month of meeting them. But that's because I'm so like fastidious about making sure we go through everything. If they're looking for more kind of a diamond in the rough, it'll be obviously a longer project. If they're looking to build a house, a longer project. But again, I like to be involved in the whole thing.
I'm the buyer that would use a realtor for a new home build. Like, I know that I could go directly to the builder, but it's the same way that I picked my mechanic. I needed somebody that I could trust to not take advantage of me in something that I'm bad at.
Yeah.
I go to my mechanic, I'm like, my car makes this noise, and then I make like a terrible interpretation of it.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, we're going to figure it out. And I trust him not to rip me off. And I would go to Robbie and be like, these are the things that I like in a house. I don't understand the technical terms. Please help me. And then I would trust him to not rip me off, which is why I would go to him rather than a builder. So like
Did you get the same impression of a house? Like, I want a house to make this noise.
Yeah, 100%. I want the bell to go ding dong. And I think that's a very millennial thing. Like I'm busy with work and stuff. And like, I have a lot on the go and I just don't want to take the time to understand like housing features. Yeah.
I think you hit the nail on the head. It is very millennial, where it's like, this is what I do. I'm going to go to someone else who does this because that's what they do. And I trust them to do their job. And so once you have that trust, it's easier to be like, okay, like, let's work together and find a solution. And that's for everything.
Absolutely. But then I'll tell eight of my friends about it. Like when I find something that I like, or I find a person that I trust, I find all of my friends that are also incompetent in the same areas and say, hey, this person will take care of you.
Have a solution.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. What I've learned today is that if I ever buy a home in Edmonton, I'm calling Robbie.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
Is the least professional realtor on the planet.
I loved it. This is it. You sold me. If I ever move to Edmonton, you're getting the home for me.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Before we wrap up, I wanted to one last question. You have a home builder marketing audience right now that's listening to the podcast. Is there anything else that you want them to know? Anything that you want to share with them to say, home builders, from a realtor, I need you to do this?
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, first of all, I've already gone mad with power. So I've been fully corrupted with this audience. No, I think that the vast majority of home builders really are moving in the right direction. But I think that if we can really drive home this point of communication and fostering relationships with realtors, it's so important. And I do think that it will result in just more sales, more positive reviews, more positive experiences, just because you have that human touch. Yeah. Sorry, that's a miscongeniality answer. I got the prize.
Congratulations. Thanks so much for being on the show, Robbie. This was a great conversation.
It was so lovely connecting with the two of you. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you both so much. Have such a beautiful day.
Jordan, it is our last episode of season 2, which feels wild to me that we're already here, but we are already here. And I feel like I have a very clear takeaway from today's episode, but what is yours?
I thought that was such an educational and inspiring conversation. And my biggest insight and takeaway is really sort of, having worked with builders for so long, I think we run the risk of sort of being in our own world too much, where it's like everybody wants all of our stuff and everybody wants to hear about us. And we're just going to throw out things that are for us. And I think we need to stop and focus and take a look at what Robbie said and do more to create relationships, do more to help the realtors on an individual basis, as opposed to, throwing out tons of information. Really identify, what are you looking for? How can I help you find what you're looking for? And really have those one-on-one relationships that can help to build sales through being helpful and finding things that meet with what their client needs. So I think to me that was a really important takeaway, and hopefully that is helpful for our builders as well.
I agree. I think this is a particularly good conversation for sales leaders to listen to, only because for me, if I were working at a sales center, I would be going out of my way to make local realtor relationships. And so I don't even know if this is like a marketing conversation so much as it is like, I hope sales teams are listening to this, to your point. For me, my biggest takeaway, and this has actually been, what's fascinating to me is that this has been consistent throughout any of my experience in both sales and marketing, with any client, but very particularly home builders, is one of the most consistent themes out of high performers in the sales and marketing world is a high level of customer empathy and education. You know, we hear this over and over again from high performers that the thing that they're best at isn't selling, it isn't conversion, it's actually being customer first, being empathetic to the customer, and thereby educating the customer because that's what they want. And that's where we see the highest performers. And we've seen that in the tech world. We've seen that in the sales world. We've seen that in some of our marketing directors we've had on the podcast. And so I just think that that's an overarching takeaway that sales and marketing leaders in general can go with, which is customer empathy and education.
Yeah, I think that's hugely important. That's so smart. I think there were lots of good takeaways from this recording. Yeah, and I hope builders got some good insight from it.
Yeah. One last prompt that I want to throw out there to our audience, to whomever's listening, and we'll put it on social as well. But feel free to email us or get into our social inboxes and let us know what you liked about this season. Let us know what you didn't. Let us know who you want us to talk to next season. We're really excited to keep great guests on here, and we're so lucky to have you as our listeners. And please let us know however we can make season 3 even better. So thanks for listening.
This has been Build Up, a ZGM podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate and subscribe on your favorite listening app. Thanks to Shelby, our editor, Santana, our executive producer, Scott for our original music, and you for listening along. Be sure to follow us on your favorite social platform at Build Up Podcast.